You are listening to the People Centric Podcast, where we talk through the toughest challenges that people face at work and give practical advice to fixing those challenges. Thanks for joining our movement to create workplaces that are happier, healthier, aligned, and empowered by putting people at the center of all that we do.
Hey, People Centric leaders. Today we're going to talk a little bit about coaching. Now, we're going to jump right into this thing because this is about coaching. We're going to coach you on how to coach others and why is coaching important. That's what we're going to talk about. Now, a lot of you, when you think about coaching, you're going to think about some kind of a sports team. What's your favorite sports team? Diana, what's your favorite sports team? Diana's on with us here. Diana are you into the sports?
I don't even know which ball goes with which sport.
A lot of times they're named after the sport.
Yeah, I know, but if you were like, which one's the football? I'd be like, I think the like squished kind of one. I don't know though.
You know, but you're also like you live out on the West Coast where there's a different kind of football too, and you've probably been to more of the other kind of football games than you have been
I've actually been to like way more European football than American football.
in American football. Okay,
Yeah,
well, that's fair.
soccer.
Communist, but that's cool. Yeah, I'll just say that.
I don't have a favorite sports team. In fact, in today's world, I think sports just make things more dichotomous, and we don't need that kind of hate, and I don't appreciate it. That's my
Okay.
hands on
Okay,
sports.
settle down. Just settle down. Nobody wants to hear that crap. Okay, well,
Just saying.
okay, all right. We're gonna move on. We've got Philip today too on the call with us. Here, Philip. Philip, what's your favorite sport?
I am similar to Diana. I'm not a huge sports person, but I will say I love a sport when it's someone I know, when it's live. You could put me into almost any sports situation. If I get to watch it live, I'm into it, right? From golf to tennis, because the energy is great when you're with a bunch of people who care. It's so much fun. Met some friends from South Africa recently who were just in St. Louis. I'm doing a Route 66 tour, and they went to a Cardinals game and they loved it. And they said, we were asking all these questions, and a lot of people around the stands didn't know how to play the game either. But we had so much fun either way. So to be a fan, that's a fun time.
That's a question. Also, shout out to Springfield Cardinals fans who are unable to describe the game of baseball to somebody.
So cute.
That's so cute.
So
That's
cute.
nice. So, what are three people? Okay, so my sport. This is Don Harkey. I should say who I am too. And I love college football. I also do I like a little basketball. I like the last 3 minutes of a basketball game. The back and forth is a lot. It's a lot. And I get impatient sometimes.
Did you?
Baseball, I'm with. Go ahead, Philip.
I was going to say, did you choose multiple sports because Nebraska's football team has such a short season? You really need to love a lot of other sports.
Yeah, so I mean, if you're a big, but Diana thinks that he just slammed me. I don't think you just slammed me.
That
Are you
is
saying
slam
because we don't have to
on
play
the
the bowl
team.
games?
Like they
No.
never make it to playoffs.
I know enough about sports to know that Nebraska has a lot of love and it's hard earned. That's for sure.
It's been rough. Yeah, as a Nebraska, thank you for noticing that. As a Nebraska fan, like when I grew up, like the first 25 years as a Husker fan, Nebraska was dominant, like awesome, like in football. And the last 10 years, not so much. We've had, and then 10 years before that, 15 years before that, pretty good mediocrity. So I remember the good old days for sure. But I still bleed red. I've got if you're watching on YouTube, you can still see my Huskers cup sitting here next to me and still love the game, right? But so what are three people, two of which do not sport very much, and one who likes to sport? What are we going to say about coaching? Well, first of all, the idea of what is coaching. So coaching is not what you think it is in terms of sports. We think about coaching like a team. You think of the person with a whistle, like yelling at everybody, like, "Oh, I'm going to give you direction. Here's what you're going to go do. Go down the run 20 laps, and then come back here, and we're going to do some push-ups," or the things that coaches say. That's not the kind of coaching that we're talking about here. So when we think about coaching, we could use different definitions for coaching. But the idea of coaching, I'll use the International Coaching Federation's definition. Of coaching, which is that coaching is a transformational journey where people discover their own true potential. That's what the International Coaching Federation's definition of coaching is. It's a transformational journey where people discover their own true potential. So, what does that mean, and why are we talking about this? That's my question. Who are you, and what are you doing here? Go.
Oh, that's like a real question. Who are you? What is what? Uh, when you started talking about coaching, when you started talking about sports, I was confused as to where this was going to go. I was lost a little bit because I don't tie coaching to sports because of what we do. My brain.
Because of what we do, but other
Yeah.
people do.
But
Other
other
people
people do. Yeah, totally, totally. So I get it. It just took me a minute. And I was like, what?
do.
So what's your question for us? Why do we coach? Like
My
what?
question is, so that definition is a transformational journey, right? It's use a transformational journey where people discover their own true potential. What's the use of that? What's how do we use that definition in what we do, Diana? Like you said, we do that on a regular basis as a consultant working with our clients. What does it really mean? Uh
Well,
let's
it goes back a little bit to your other analogy of coaching, the sports coaching. People do think that coaching is telling people what to do. Like, oh, you have this problem, just go do this and then it'll be solved. But the key part of that definition of from the international coaching, whatever, is your own transformation, finding your own transformation or something like that. What's the definition again? It was something like that. But regardless, it's you have to find it yourself. Don, you're muted. What did you say? Helping people what?
helping people discover their own true potential.
Discover their own true potential. So if I am constantly telling you what to do, you're not discovering anything, right? If I'm like, go do this, go, you're just checking boxes. When a coach blows a whistle and says, go run 10 laps, you're not discovering anything. You're going and running the 10 laps.
Yeah, you're
So
shutting your brain off and going and running the laps.
totally. But if a coach said, your goal is to get to XYZ, what do you think you need to get there? And you were like, oh, I have to work on my leg strength, I have to work on my lungs, I have to work on my thing, I'm going to go run 10 laps. That's a different decision. That's a different mindset. I'm doing this to fulfill something else. That's not turning off your brain and going and doing what somebody else said. And the coach might be like, you do need to go run those 10 laps. But by not saying that directly and letting you discover it yourself, the running is more impactful.
I love how you point out it's an extrinsic versus intrinsic difference. If you're coaching a team of people, and I've been on sports teams that had great coaches that would coach the way we say coaching happens, versus just telling a group of people to go do something. There's probably a Venn diagram. Anyone who's had an incredible sports coach probably had someone that is a good coach who leads to transformation and development. But I think a lot of people have also had just a very terrible coach or a leader that's a teller and a yeller and not someone that helps you find your own potential and helps you then take your own journey into your own hands and build that out. And, one of the things I love about the Federation's definition is that word transformation, because it doesn't say just a little bit better, just a little bit more, but it really leads to a holistic improvement or growth of a person, which if you approach coaching in that way, it's really easy to show up and say, okay, we'll have a conversation with someone. Maybe they bite it, maybe they don't. It's really on them. And so I love that it leads to their discovery and transformation. But good coaching can only be done when the coachee leans into it and owns it and runs with it. Otherwise, it just becomes a conversation about things that could happen, right? And Diana's famous quote, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And that's true for organizations and it's true for people. So your own example of, okay, if you want to run more, how are you going to do this? Like, how do you build lung capacity? What are your ideas? What have you tried? What's working for you? What's next?
And I want to distinguish here for the listener or the watcher, if you're watching us on YouTube, we are on YouTube. You can see our faces. If you wonder what we look like and you've always wondered that, check us out on YouTube. You can see that. Diana's like, nope, nope. But Diana does have some pretty flowers behind her, given to her by her husband, Jimmy. I know he did it because he texted me and told me he was doing that. And I told him, knock it off. I don't know why. You didn't know that, did you?
What?
Yeah, he
No,
texted you and said, these are
you
for Diana.
too.
You'll probably see these behind. And I said, well, Diana will think they're for her, but I know they're actually for me.
You too. And your bromance freaks me out every once in a while. I'm very worried.
He's a wonderful, wonderful man. But if you're listening to this and you're thinking like we're pushing back against traditional coaching in terms of like teams, that's not what the conversation is. So we're not talking about sports coaching anymore. Now we're talking about how do you use this concept of coaching at work. And this is powerful whether you're an employee, whether you're a manager, whether you're an executive, at whatever level it is, because there's two different ways you could tell somebody, you can push somebody. Sometimes we talk about like a supervisory decision chart. And you think about it like, first of all, what you're doing is you're evaluating a performance of somebody around you, and then you're giving feedback on that performance. And then that person responds to the feedback. And if they respond in a way where they own the feedback, then that means that's your opportunity for coaching. Now, if they respond in a way where they don't own the feedback, which in other words, they blame other people, they don't accept responsibility for the feedback, or they push back on it, then coaching is not what you want to do. This is where you do tell. So there are times when you want to tell your employees what to do, and there's times when you want to ask them questions. Let's jump into that a little bit. Like, what are some times when you would want to just tell somebody else at work what to do? I'm just going to tell you. I'm going to blow the whistle and say run 10 laps. What's an example of a time when you might want to do that?
Every day, all day. That's what I prefer. Please. Thank you.
That's a good confession, Diana, but that's true for a lot of us. You're like, why can't I just go and tell everybody what to do? And we'll talk a little bit about that too. Like, what's the advantage of the other situation? Why not just tell people what to do? But when are situations where you do tell people what to do, not just when you want to, Diana?
Oh, man. If everyone just did what I said, it'll go real smoothly.
I get it. It's everybody else. It's everybody else. But we practice empowerment on this podcast, Diana. It doesn't sound like you're having a lot of power. It sounds like you're a victim of your people.
No, my people are great. They don't need me telling them what to do. Okay, so I think there are times where you just have to tell people what to do. If it's an emergency, if there's a fire, if there's a safety incident, I think those are really appropriate moments to say like, you're standing next to a flammable tank of gas. Please put your cigarette out. Not even, you don't even have to say please. Like, put your cigarette out. Get out of here. You're booted. There are moments where you can be like, this is what you need to do. But I think there are more moments where we tell people what they should do when we should be asking what they want to do next.
Yeah. So let's practice that a little bit. So let's say like, okay, I'm working for you. Let's put ourselves in something that everybody understands. Let's say we're working at a restaurant and you two are my managers and you watched me go have an interaction with a group of customers where I was not very polite. I wasn't necessarily rude, but I wasn't very polite. I was just kind of like dead. I was just stone-faced. It wasn't a good interaction to have. You as a manager, what's your first step? You just watched me do it. I went to the table and I just went like, okay, I'm like, what can I get you? All right, all right, all right, I'll get it. Bye. And I did that kind of interaction. What's the first step as a manager?
Pull you aside and be like, hey, dummy, what were you doing? Those are our clients. Those are our customers.
Listen, jackass, you got to be better.
I was thinking like walk up in front of these clients you want to retain and say, you're fired. You're out of here.
Good day.
Throw in the towel. Yeah, you're over. You're finished. You'll never come to anything. No transformation for you.
Good day to you, sir. Good day to you.
Good day. Hand in your apron, and we're going to burn it in front of you.
That's it.
Yeah, no, I would probably instead, I would pull you to the side. And Don, I don't know if you're new or have been here for a long time, but like, hey, how's it going over there with that table? Ask a little bit like, how'd that go? Hey, I noticed this interaction wasn't your normal interaction. What did you think about it? Like, what's going on? Unpack it a little bit. Asking before telling instead of just saying, wow, that does not reach our customer service standards and is far below what you've done before. Fix yourself. It really would just be to ask more. And it could be maybe there's stuff going on. Maybe there's something we don't know. Maybe you're about to quit. You probably shouldn't be doing this if you are in that role. We actually have friends that just opened a restaurant, and every time we're there, we watch them with different staff, high level of customer service. But one employee literally went to a live musician, handed the musician $20 because someone at her table said, can you pay this musician to stop playing music? And this musician's a big deal in town. And the restaurant, of course, would never want this to be done. So I literally just watched this happen for our friends who own this restaurant. And how they handled it was incredible. They did not yell and blunderbuss their way through it. But that employee did have a very serious conversation and they unpacked. Turned out it was their parents who did it. And so the employee didn't feel comfortable saying no to their parents. So they made an awkward situation at their employer, right? A lot more going on than just a stupid, crazy person who's asking a great musician to stop playing music.
That's a good example. And you just walked through a lot of things there.
Yeah, but also to your point, you have to ask questions to get there, right? You can't just pull that person aside and be like, "What are you?" Also, don't ask the questions, "What were you thinking? What are you doing?" Those are not the right questions to ask. I just about did it.
How
What are you
dare you?
doing? That's
How
way different.
dare you? What do you think? Who do you think
Who
you
do
are?
you think you are? Different questions. But the question of like, "Hey, what just happened there? Can you break down what happened and how we got to this, and just give me some more context, give me some more information." You wouldn't know if you just flew off the handle and said you're fired or I'm mad at you and you suck and I'm writing you up. You wouldn't know that the employee felt uncomfortable and was struggling because it was like family and work and they made a bad decision. Yeah, you wouldn't know any of that. So yeah, it leads to bad decisions on the management's part. So asking that question of just what happened over there? Tell me more.
Yeah. So unfortunately, like all of this is all really good advice, but we know statistically and through experience that the number one response from the manager is they will see it and not say anything. That is the by far the most common response. I saw it, I noted it, I've got it in my head now. And if I keep seeing it happen over and over and over and over and over and over again, I'm probably going to just make a decision that you shouldn't be in that job. And you and I never talked about it. Which is why when a manager is struggling with an employee, the first question that we ask them is, does the employee know it or not? Do they know it? Did you ask them? Did you say something to them? So you notice that Diana and Philip both said, okay, as the manager, I'm going to have a conversation with the person. I saw it and I'm going to have a conversation. Now, it's not if you even see it multiple times. I think we want to distinguish that too. We didn't say that that person had ever done that before or not done that before. We're saying it's the first time you've seen that doing that. And notice that Diana and Philip both said, no, I'm having a conversation with you. I'm pulling you aside. You notice the conversation wasn't, you're an idiot. Why did you do that? That's bad. What does that look like? It's, hey, that interaction didn't look like it went so well. What's going on? Tell me a little bit about it. And then you're going to listen to their response. And this is an important piece to that because based on the response, it's going to help you know what to do next. If they come back and say, well, you're being a jerk too, and, or those customers I hate them. I hate all of our customers or something like that. This is where you do not employ coaching skills. So this is not what we're talking about. Okay. The coaching happens if the other person then owns what you just said. So what does ownership look like? So if I asked you the question, Diana or Philip, if I'm the one working at the table and I answer what can I answer that what kind of answer would I give you that would make you think that, wow, Don's showing some ownership in this problem?
I think your example of, you just had this weird interaction with customers, and maybe you don't say, yeah, wow, I've had a terrible day, and my grandma just died, and my dog is sick, and I stubbed my toe before walking in here, and I limped to that table. I did everything I could to just help that table. Like, it may not be that dramatic, but someone that can own, yeah, that interaction, that's not my best, and this is why, kind of owning an element of it. And I would say it's kind of, in law, there's this term of the meeting of the minds, which any friend who's a lawyer says rarely happens. But I think good coaching, there's an element of the meeting of the minds where you're like, okay, we can both see enough of this is true. Let's talk about that. So if they own the reality that you saw or they own the situation and their part in it, and then you can talk about it then. Okay, well, what's going on? What could we do differently in the future? Or what is it you need more supportive from me? To your point, Don, it could go a million different ways based on how they answer. If you were to say, I'm the only one working 12 tables, there's not time to have a lot of great interaction. You're like, wow, that's a real concern. We didn't realize someone called in sick, or, we can help and support that versus you are screwing up so bad. Fix yourself.
Yeah. So again, to just kind of replay that, it's the something happens that you don't like. The manager goes to the other person and gives the feedback, reflects back the situation, says, I just saw you had a customer interaction that was not good. And then you're waiting to see what the response, I reflected it back, what's going on? And then you're waiting for the response back. You're looking for ownership. from the employee? Do they own it? They lean in and go, yeah, I'm just really tired today. I'm having a bad day or whatever it is. And then you could dive into that and understand that a little bit more and understand what's going digging into it. Then you go into coaching mode. Or is it the response of saying like, well, yeah, I hate this job. I hate you. I hate everybody here. That's different. That's accountability mode. That's a different episode. That's a different episode to lean into. But then you can coach and you can ask them questions. So why do that approach? Why do we ask people questions versus just telling them, hey, I saw you have that interaction. Don't do that again. Be nicer. What's the advantage of the coaching approach? Even though Diana badly wants it where people, and a lot of managers do, most of us who are managers would prefer just to say, don't do that anymore. But why does the other approach work better?
Something I think we often hear with clients, they use the word coaching, but they use it very differently. Oh, yes, we have a troubled employee. Then we coach them and they've received coaching. So now we're fixing this troubled employee. And I think we use coaching very differently. I think every employee should be coached. If you have a leader, your leader should be coaching you. So it's not just for bad employees. It's not just for good employees. It's all employees. Are they getting feedback? And I think people, especially in the States, we're afraid of being micromanagers. So whether we're control freaks who just want to control everything or not, we don't want to come across as uber controlling. So if I give you too much feedback, you might think of me as controlling. But a lot of the time that's feedback that's telling feedback as opposed to a conversation, right? Or that back and forth.
Well, I like that word controlling because controlling me implies then you are in control. So what's going to happen when you're not there? If you're not there, then you don't have control anymore. Then the other person's going to make their own decisions on what to do. It's like I've disconnected the circuit and now they're just going to do whatever they want.
Yeah, and I think when people ask questions, it makes you pause for a second and reflect on what actually is going on. So if Don came to me and was like, Diana, you just seem off today. You seem less chipper than usual, and that's bad. I would have to stop and be like, oh, what am I? Oh yeah, well, I didn't sleep very good last night, and this client was kind of hard on me, and Philip was mean to me. So yeah, I'm being kind of a grumpy Gus today. Um, but then it's up to me to decide, do I share that? Do I take care of that? Or do I just like rein it in and let some of that stuff go? But it's up to me to decide because I've reflected on what I'm doing. And I think that reflection moment is really important in these conversations to like introspect.
That's
Yeah,
good.
we worked with a manager a little while ago who said that he was tired of his employees coming to him asking dumb questions. And he said, and we said, like, give me an example of a dumb question. He was like, he's an EMT, and he said he sometimes have somebody come back, and they'd come back from a call, and they'd be like, where does the hose go? And he's like, it goes in the cabinet marked hose. Like, that's a dumb question. Like, and you've done this multiple times. Like, what do you mean, where does the hose go? What does that look like? And so he said he's tired of them asking dumb questions. So we asked him the question. So what do you do when someone comes and asks you a dumb question? And he looked at us like we had just asked him another dumb question. And he goes, well, I answered the question. Like I answered the question. And I'm like, oh, okay. So you are training them to come to you to ask dumb questions. And he said, what's the alternative? And I said, what if you didn't answer the question? And he said, I was not aware that was an option. No one ever told me as a manager, I'm here to, if you have questions, I'm here. Come to me. I will give you the information. I will give you the rich knowledge that I have in my head. And I get that. So then what does it look like if you don't answer the question? And we said, like, what if it was, hey, where do I put this hose? And the answer to that question could be like, I don't know, what were you thinking? Where would you think we could put the hose? Like, and it's hard to say that not sarcastically because it is a dumb question, but it is a little sarcastic, but you're like, where do you think we should put the hose? Well, how about maybe, and then you see the person like engage their brain and start looking around and say, oh, maybe it should go in the hose cabinet. How about in the hose cabinet? That seems reasonable to me. Good call, right? I mean, and that's a win. That sounds like it's a sarcastic thing, but what it does is it makes the other person engage their brain. There's a book called Multipliers that's out there that talks about studies that they've done that show that people's effective IQ at work is impacted by how other people coach them or don't coach them. If I always answer your questions and I never make you think about things and just come to me with the next question, your effective IQ is lower, like a lot lower. But if I ask you questions, it spurns both your brain to think about the answers, but it also encourages ownership. So let's think about like what are some good coaching like questions? Like I know both of you, Diana and Philip, are excellent coaches. You've coached people before. Can you give us any examples of things that you've like situations that you've encountered where you've asked some good questions, or what are things that what are some of the tricks of the trade?
Some of the tricks of the trade. That last example you gave of the people asking dumb questions. One of my favorite things to ask is, if I weren't here, what would you do? If you couldn't come to me and couldn't ask the question, what would you go do? And then I also get the a lot of the responses are, I don't know. I don't know. And one of my favorite questions to reflect back is, well, if you did know, just if you did know, just speculate, right? Like pretend you did know. And that is actually a trick. I don't remember where we learned that, but that's a trick that coaches have everywhere. So if you ever say, I don't know, and a coach is like, but what if you did?
That sounds
That's
so stupid. How does that work?
so
Like it really doesn't
stupid.
sound. First time I heard that, I was like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And then I tried it with somebody and it works. It's worked every time I've used it.
Works
Why
every time.
why does that work?
I think there's it's sort of giving that person permission to not know and be okay with not knowing and still answer. It's okay that you don't know. Just give me what's in your head. So it's okay that you don't know. Just unpack it with me, right? And it's a weird human psychology trick of just like it gives them permission to say whatever they actually want to say. It's weird.
It's a powerful question too, because it's different than saying, "Oh, I'm so frustrated by that silly, I don't know." You're not allowed to not know. Use your head. What do you know? It's very empowering, right? It's just, I like how it's an on-ramp question. I think lots of coaching questions can be, let's just take what we have. It might be a little bit of the picture, it might be all of the picture. Let's use that as the on-ramp to say, like, well, what do we see? What do we like? What do we not like? Is there anything around us that we've experienced that we see other people do that has worked really well that can help us know like the direction we want to go? Oh, hey, there's a lot of executives we work with who have trouble talking with their team that reports to them or their CEO. So sometimes it's like, well, what do you see someone else who has a really good relationship with your CEO? Or is there someone on your team that seems to lead that group really well? How do they start their meetings? How do they get those one-on-ones accomplished? Like, what does that look like? Or the opposite, like, who just bombs on your team? Hopefully it's not you. Like, can we look to people around you where you're like, they are really not very good? Or there's this one person that goes to our CEO and then they are always mad at each other. Like, what causes that? Let's do the opposite of that. So I always like to pull in experiences too of what do you see? What's going on around you that works well, that we can learn from?
That's a great one. I also love asking the person, like, let's say something broke. I love asking, what happened? That's all I have to ask. Like, from your perspective, you tell me, like, the process broke, the person didn't show up, I was mad, the boxes aren't here, whatever it is. Like, just tell me what happened, and then I'll understand more about what happened from your perspective, and then we can unpack more from there. But just starting with a baseline, like, tell me what happened, tell me what's going on, give it all to me, is better than like, are you dumb? Why did this happen? Right?
That's
Like,
much better than that, Diana. That's true.
way better. I know. Even though I think it sometimes.
Yeah,
I
you
think
can think it, just don't say it, right?
Yeah.
use your inside voice, not your outside voice.
Yeah. Do you think you're smarter than the situation you've gotten yourself in? Uh, I think one of the other things that's really helpful too, and why we love working with teams that create goals, and we talk about this a lot as a team, alignment and empowerment is true for all the people with the organization. Where's the organization going? What are the organization's goals? But a lot of that backed as a good employer or a good leader is to also know your individual teams, your individual team members' own goals, like their own wants at work and beyond. And so when I coach with folks, I always like to have at least 2 to 3 clear goals. Where do you want to grow? So then as we come to situations or challenges they have, the question would be like, well, you said you want to grow in your ability to have hard conversations or to be that voice in the room that uses your expertise and make it really clear in a concise way, like what the next step should be. Or you want to have crucial conversations differently. And so using those goals to guide where they want to take that situation also. So if it's, hey, Don, you shared that you want to be the best host for our customers that come in to eat our amazing food. Like today, how could today match that differently? Like what will the rest of the day look like so you can reach that goal even more? We worked on this. We're talking about this. What's next?
Yeah, yeah. Or if I'm bored because I'm working the same tables all day long, it's been a long shift, and you're like, do you think that does that approach of you being not very open and friendly to the customers help or hurt that? Like I would think of like I have days that go by pretty fast because all the customer interactions are really good, and you think that your response has a chance of impacting that. Those are great. So I mean, if you're thinking about it at its core, like if you're brand new to this concept of coaching, coaching is asking questions. If you think about how do I earn engagement, this very simple way is you engage people, and the best way to engage people is by asking them a question. Find out where they're at, and then meet them where they are, which we have said multiple times on this podcast leaning into it. Now, some of you, we've been using this in the context of a manager with an employee, but this works with any human to any human. In fact, we had a story, and Diana, I'm going to let you kind of tell this story. So I'm teeing this up for you a little bit about Philip. You and I were going to make a decision on not joining a local organization that we've traditionally been a part of. We were thinking about not doing our membership, and Philip is active in that organization. And we kind of put it out there for our team and said, we're thinking about not redoing this. And Philip coached Diana on a response, and it was very effective. And myself, as I say, Coach Diana, coach both of us on a response. So the initial response was to Diana. Diana called me and said, these are the questions Philip asked me. And both Diana and I were like, darn it, okay, Philip, you're right, let's go this direction. You want to tell a little bit about that?
Yeah. I mean, you hit the highlights. We were frustrated with an organization that we'd been a part of for a long time, and Don and I are old people and we're a little jaded by it, and we had done a lot for this organization and we just weren't feeling valued in it anymore, and we weren't feeling the value from it anymore. And Philip just sort of said, like, what was your original goal with joining this organization? How will it help our goals going forward? And do you want to be people centric, or do you want to be somebody else? Like, what values are you breaking if you do it this way? If you take your ball and go home, are you breaking any of your own values? Have you had a conversation about this with this organization? Like, is walking away a powerful statement for us, or is it a not powerful statement for us? And the way that he just like coached me through it was brilliant. It was brilliant. And I don't think that Philip had his own agenda in that, or, anything. Like, I think he was just, let's ask questions and make sure this is the right decision for us. And after I thought about it, I was like, man, you were spot on, Philip. Like, no, it did not further the goal. Us leaving that organization was not helpful to People Centric or to the organization or to the community at large. Like, you just pointing it out and being very rational and very kind helped me introspect, take that moment of pause, and really work through what we should do next. And I think we made a good decision by not leaving that organization and just like recommitting to it. It was pretty powerful the way you did that.
Now the art of that, give Philip a lot of credit, is Philip could have come out and said like, well, that would be stupid. Don't do that. Don't do that. And that would have been a pushback. And then it would have been, well, the only reason that we're part of this organization anymore is because I guess Philip wants to do it, right?
Yeah.
But by asking the questions, Diana, like what you just described is like you reflected on it and then we both made a different decision than we would have made before. But we made the decision. Like it didn't steal our autonomy. It still, which is key. And it goes back to what Philip talked about, intrinsic motivation, which means it's a motivation from inside versus extrinsic motivation, meaning you feel like you were coerced or pressured or rewarded into something. And intrinsic motivation is much more powerful. So just the concept that we get to think about ourselves and what decisions we make, that's a lot more effective as an organization for sure.
Yeah, and it also changed how I feel about things. It changed how I feel about the organization also, because I took that moment to introspect. So he didn't just make it so that we made a different decision. He made it so that I felt differently about that decision as well. That was the transformation part, right? He allowed me to transform my thinking.
And I think the benefit with that is knowing both of you and and our own goals and our own values. It really does. We're not just saying that when we talk about that as a team. It's genuinely holding that up and saying, oh, like, is this what you want? Is this what fits with what we've done before and what we want to do moving forward? Or something different. So I'm glad you all listen. Maybe that's the other piece of it, to that earlier point. If people are able to listen and talk about it and own it together, then you can have these conversations, as opposed to, Diana, your point, like nefarious agendas or a different level of goal of, it's not really for the team, it's really for me and just what I want. That's a different context.
That's really cool. So coaching, if you work with people, think about utilizing this coaching approach. I know you've got an idea of where you want things to go. I know it's tempting to try to push those things out there. It's tempting to just answer questions, all of those different things. But the right answer, it might be, it's more effective for you, more powerful for you, and more powerful for other people to ask questions instead.
Yeah. And Don, I'm going to reiterate your point where you said it doesn't just work for managers up and down, and Philip managed us up, and it doesn't just work as managers managing down. It works with your coworkers. You and I have coached each other 100 times. It works with your significant others. Do you know how many times I've used the trick on my husband when he's like, well, I don't know. What if you did know? It's a sneaky thing that I now have in my arsenal. So like, you can coach anyone around you, and it does elevate not just your relationship and the way you interact, but it elevates other people around you too.
Yeah, it reminds me of my big fat Greek wedding, right? Where they're trying to get him to hire the daughter into or let her leave the restaurant to go work for the travel agency and stuff. And they just keep asking him questions until he comes to the solution. And he's like, I got it. Here's what we're going to do. And he does what everybody else wanted him to do anyway. That could feel kind of manipulative in the wrong circumstances. And don't manipulate people into it. But asking genuine questions to help people to reflect on a question is really a powerful tool. So I hope this was beneficial for you, whether you're a manager or an employee. If you work with other people, considering asking more questions, engage people, meet them where they are, learn something. As Philip used and Diana both gave examples of, like, maybe you think something that's not true. Maybe you're assigning intent to somebody else that's not going to be very helpful for that person. So hopefully this was beneficial for you. Thanks a lot for joining our People Centric podcast, and send us topics. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks, and see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the People Centric Podcast. We are so grateful for you joining us every week. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. Also, feel free to share on your social media with everyone that you know. It really does help us. If you would like to contact us, I have put our information in the show notes. Please reach out anytime. We love hearing from you. We will be back next week with a new topic